Lance Barber reacts to George's fate in Young Sheldon Season 7. After 7 years, George's death has finally arrived on the Big Bang Theory prequel. It's one of two major plot points about the Cooper patriarch that was previously established in the nerd-centric sitcom. With George's cheating scandal already retconned earlier in Young Sheldon Season 7, his death is the only remaining arc left for the character. Despite being confirmed to happen long ago, it is still devastating to see the tragedy go down on screen. On the heels of George's death in Young Sheldon Season 7, Episode 12, A New Home and a Traditional Texas Torture, Barber talks to TV Insider to unpack the latest and biggest Cooper family tragedy. While the outing is harrowing, the actor is thrilled with how the writers came up with the beloved Cooper patriarch's send-off. He finishes it off by saying that playing George is now part of his legacy. Read his full quote below. Why George's death is so devastating in Young Sheldon. Season 7 allowed for a more tragic death for George. Despite not appearing in The Big Bang Theory, the flagship series established an image of George that cannot be further from Young Sheldon's version of the character. While Sheldon and Mary talked about his flaws, the prequel showed his best qualities to flesh out the character. Barber has admitted that he was thrilled to play someone more nuanced than the punchline that George was in The Big Bang Theory. Unfortunately, this makes losing him more devastating for the Coopers, especially in light of what has transpired in this final year. George's funeral will be the focal point of Young Sheldon's penultimate episode. It does seem like the CBS family comedy drama will devote its whole runtime to tackling the send-off for the Cooper patriarch. Life hasn't been easy for the Coopers, and Young Sheldon leaned on those darker moments. George and Mary's marriage went through some rough patches, with Sheldon's dad even admitting once that he was so miserable with the life he had. In Young Sheldon Season 7, however, things have been turning around for the family, as highlighted by George getting a new job offer that would help him better provide for his family. His relationships with his kids and Mima were at an all-time high, and his marriage was in the best place it had been in years. It's so cruel that George won't be able to experience the life that he was working for. Sheldon and the Coopers' lives will be drastically changed by this loss. The aftermath of the tragedy will be tackled in the first half of the series finale, which will see George's funeral. At the very least, however, Young Sheldon was able to fully rehabilitate his image before he passed away. What's next for the Coopers after George's death? Sheldon and his family dealt with their grief differently, with George's funeral the focal point of Young Sheldon's penultimate episode. It seems like the CBS family comedy drama will devote its whole runtime to sending off the Cooper patriarch. It's unclear if there will be any additional revelations in the episode. But it's worth noting that the gathering will also feature many of the show's most prominent recurring characters as they share Sheldon and his family's grief over the loss of George. Young Sheldon doesn't have enough time to show how the Coopers move forward from this tragedy. However, Georgie's The Big Bang Theory debut offered information about how the family coped with this extremely difficult situation. Considering their revitalized marriage, Mary was too grief-stricken to function after George died. This forced Georgie to take over the family. Missy, on the other hand, returned to her rebellious ways, while Sheldon focused on his post-grad studies at Caltech. Being away helped him get over the loss, although it's worth wondering if he was really able to properly process it. How George's death affects Young Sheldon's sequel series. Georgie and Mandy's story will continue in their own spin-off. None of the remaining Cooper family members will be series regulars in Georgie and Mandy's spin-off, which will take place after the events of Young Sheldon. This is despite continued petitions from fans to bring in Mary, Mima, and Missy, even as recurring guest stars. They could still appear in the upcoming spin-off, but it's highly unlikely that Georgie and Mandy's first marriage will dwell on George's death. Losing his dad, however, can be incorporated into his personal story, especially as he raises his first child in Cease.